Preparing to live stream the webinar. Hi, setting up the webinar. All right, we may be live already, but I'm going to repeat myself. And hello, and welcome. My name is Paul Sugarman, and this is the Instant Shakespeare Company. And today is July 4th, 2025, and we're going to celebrate the 249th birthday of America with a reading of the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights. I have a couple of people reading with me. If you'd like to introduce yourself, Erica.
Hi, I'm Erica Amato. Great to be here.
Great. And Derek?
I'm Derek Tarson. Good to be here as well.
Great. Thank you so much. And this is something that I've always liked to do, to read the Declaration of Independence on the 4th of July, because it is something that is worth remembering and celebrating. And I thank you to our panelists and attendees. And I just want to make sure I turn off the play the join and leave sound. And let us therefore, let me see, we have another attendee. We have attendees. Okay.
Oh, that's nice.
So thank you all for coming. Does anybody, well, we planned to read it with us three, so let's do that. So now the Declaration of Independence in Congress, July 4, 1776.
The unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of these repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world.
He has refused his assent to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good.
He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained, and when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them.
He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only.
He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures.
He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasions on the rights of the people.
He has refused for a long time after such dissolutions to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers, incapable of annihilation, have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the state remaining in the meantime exposed to all the dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within.
He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states, for that purpose obstructing the laws for naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of lands.
He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers.
He has made judges dependent upon his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount and payment of their salaries.
He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance.
He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislatures.
He has consented to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power.
He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation.
For quartering large bodies of armed troops among us.
For protecting them by a mock trial from punishment for any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states.
For cutting off our trade with all parts of the world.
For imposing taxes on us without our consent.
For
depriving us in many cases of the benefit of trial by jury.
For transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses.
For abolishing the free system of English laws in a neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government, and enlarging its boundaries so as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies.
For taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our governments.
For suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever.
He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us.
He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people.
He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny, already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages and totally unworthy the head of a civilized nation.
He has constrained our fellow citizens taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their hands.
He has excited domestic insurrections amongst us, and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers, the merciless Indian savages, whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions.
In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people.
Nor have we been wanting in attentions to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our immigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They too have been deaf to the voice of justice and Consanguinity! We must, therefore, acquiesce to the necessity which it denounces our separation and hold them, as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace, friends.
We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, in General Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do, in the name and by authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are and of right ought to be free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states, they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
Georgia, Button Gwinnett, Lyman Hall, George Walton.
North Carolina, William Hooper, Joseph Hughes, John Penn.
South Carolina, Edward Rutledge, Thomas Hayward Jr., Thomas Lynch Jr., Arthur Middleton.
Massachusetts, John Hancock.
Maryland, Samuel Chase, William Paca, Thomas Stone, Charles Carroll of Carrollton.
Virginia, George Wythe, Richard Henry Lee, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Harrison, Thomas Nelson Jr. Francis Lightfoot Lee, Carter Braxton.
Pennsylvania, Robert Morris, Benjamin Rush, Benjamin Franklin, John Morton, George Clymer, James Smith, George Taylor, James Wilson, George Ross.
Delaware, Caesar Rodney, George Reed, Thomas McCain.
New York, William Floyd, Philip Livingston, Francis Lewis, Lewis Morris.
New Jersey, Richard Stockton, John Witherspoon, Francis Hopkinson, John Hart, Abraham Clark.
New Hampshire, Josiah Bartlett, William Whipple.
Massachusetts, Samuel Adams, John Adams, Robert Treat Payne, Elbridge Gerry.
Rhode Island, Stephen Hopkins, William Ellery.
Connecticut, Roger Sherman, Samuel Huntington, William Williams, Oliver Wolcott.
New Hampshire, Matthew Thornton.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining it. I'm sorry, I'm the one who screwed up twice, but
Sanguinity.
Consanguinity. That I love that.
That's a tough word to say.
On a cold read, that was a tough word to come up on.
Yes, it is. It certainly is. So that's great, and thank you. Now let's just, I want to discuss a few things. I mean, why the Declaration of Independence is important to me. Should we do that now and then do the Bill of Rights, or should we just do the Bill of Rights and then discuss both of them afterwards? What do you think?
Yeah, let's discuss the Declaration now.
Yeah, why not, since it's fresh? I mean, it is, there's a little bit in it that, is, there is
about the Native Americans?
The merciless Indian savage.
Yes.
Yikes. But in many other ways, it does also seem pretty relevant to today, about a tyrant who is set on imposing their will on people, no matter what. And I mean, I think there's also one of the things, but it's such a great for me, I mean, something I've always liked to do. And as I say, before we would do it on Zoom, I would just read it outdoors in front of the neighbors, because I just love so much of what is in here in terms of the idea of, it's like, you can't put up with a government that doesn't respect the people. and that this. I mean, I remember in 1976 for the bicentennial how excited everybody was about celebrating the 200th birthday of the United States, which they marked as the date of the Declaration of Independence. And so here we are now at 249, and it's like, let's hope we make it to 250. Because I mean, I'm not sure that it's looking good. So, but so it's good to celebrate it now and to celebrate this idea, which even though it's like our real founding document is our Constitution, but this is the idea of that, like, no, we're not going to put up a government that doesn't respect the people. So that's my thought on why it's important. Anybody else?
I have nothing to add.
Yeah, I think that pretty much covers it.
Thank you. I mean, because it's so funny in terms of certain things, like we want to be able to bring more people into this country because really at that point, I mean, well, they needed them for the imperialist colonialist intent of displacing the natives of this country. But it is important to sort of remember on this celebration of the United States of America that I mean, most of us are the descendants of these white European invaders, and that it doesn't make sense not to keep welcoming people, I mean, because it's also, I mean, that's one of the things that I'm so sort of sad in terms of just, well, the cruelty of what's being done, but that there's, and Ronald Reagan, I mean, he signed this act, the last significant immigration reform, which was over 40 years ago. It gave amnesty to people who had been living here and set up a path. But it's like, a lot of people, it's like, well, they should do it legally the way my parents did. It's like, yeah, well, if you were a white person, you could come. It was fine. It wasn't until, I mean, I think the 1920s, not the history on it, but most people, there weren't really restrictions like we have nowadays.
There were restrictions. I mean, it depends. Like my people weren't considered white until probably the 50s because I'm Italian. So we weren't, that's a whole other story about the acquisition of whiteness. Like there's a whole thing where like Italians fought really hard to be like considered white because they weren't considered white, for a long time. But my people came over in like the late 1800s, that influx, around the turn of the last century. And you had to be sponsored and all that stuff. And I don't know if you know the derogatory term WAP that people use for Italians, but that stood for without papers because we were basically like illegal immigrants. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, my people did come through completely legally. I could get Italian citizenship because I have one grandparent that actually came over. Like that's my closest one is a grandparent. All the others are great grandparents. But he would have had to have not been naturalized. Basically, he would have had to have still been illegal or not, not illegal, but not naturalized when my father was born for me to qualify for Italian citizenship. But unfortunately, everybody did everything totally by the book, and he was a fully naturalized citizen when my father was born. So I'm just American.
Yeah. Well, and in those days, it was a lot more people that were let in than the sort of whatever the present are. But
absolutely. I mean, they could still come over. I mean, it was Ellis Island. There was a whole processing, situation.
Right.
But yeah.
And I mean, that's basically.
But they weren't very welcome either.
Yes. Well, my family was from. One side Italian, probably around the same time period, but I'm not as clear on the details of that, and also Eastern European Jewish, so they also
lots of stories, but and the Irish, and you would think the Irish would have no problem either, because they were white, but they had problems too when they were coming over in like the 1820s, 1840s, the Irish potato famine, all that stuff,
Yeah.
Well, all it takes is for people to feel overrun by a certain group.
Exactly. Well, it's fear of the unknown. It's xenophobia.
That's right.
It's just xenophobia. Period.
And yeah, it has. That's been happening for 200 years. It's not. That's nothing new.
Right.
Yeah. No, and I mean, and it's also, I mean, one of the other things as we get to the Bill of Rights and religious freedom, it's like people came here because they wanted to have their own freedom, but then they didn't want other people to have their freedom.
Exactly, exactly. It's freedom
And
for
so,
what was it in Animal Farm? You know, all animals are created equal, but some are more equal than others.
The
yeah,
pigs are more equal than others.
You
Yes, right.
know?
yeah, cool.
Should we open up the conversation to the two
Yeah,
people
yeah. If
joining
anybody
us
else
here?
Yeah, let's
wants
start
to
with
talk, who's here? I mean, Patrick or Garrett, if um, I was,
Oh, he
And
went away.
the fact that we need immigrants to do the work.
yeah,
If we get rid of the immigrants, the people that are here now that are doing the work, we don't have anybody to feed us, to harvest the food, to do all the work that white people don't want to do.
Right.
yeah. And historically, immigrants have been willing because they're coming from such bad situations to work. I mean, so much more than most of us comfortable native-born Americans are.
Right, to do the jobs other people don't want to do, whether it be farming, whether it be building the Brooklyn Bridge, you know? I mean, the people that built that bridge were, you know,
Yeah.
it was a motley crew. And it was dangerous work, you know? And the people who were willing to do it were the immigrants, you know?
Right.
Exactly. So I just, and I think it's yeah. So let's do the Bill of Rights, and then we can do some more. Patrick, do you want to join and read some of this with us, or?
I
We're
don't have
unrehearsed. We're just going
I
like round
don't
robin.
have a copy,
Well, let me
or I
see.
don't have it in front of me.
Okay. All right. Well, then.
Let's not have me read, because me trying to find it or
All
you
right.
sending it to me and trying to get it open in the panel, it's
Yes. No, you
Okay.
can. You
Gotcha.
are our audience member,
Zoom
so you can
Right.
meetings
join
are
us
Okay.
as the audience. So
endless preparation and continual being continually being foiled while you're trying to do the meeting.
Okay.
I have found.
All right. Okay. So I'll read the little introduction, and then Erica, you start off, and then Derek, and we'll go. And I'll
Okay.
try not to.
Just amendment by amendment, I guess, right? Okay.
Yeah. I'll just read the U.S. Bill of Rights. Note: the following text is a transcription of the first 10 amendments to the Constitution in their original form. These amendments were ratified December 15th, 1791, and form what is known as the Bill of Rights.
Amendment 1. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances.
Amendment 2. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
Amendment 3. No soldier shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law.
Amendment 4. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized.
Amendment 5. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless upon presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia, when in actual service in time of war or public danger. Nor shall any person be subject to for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation.
Amendment 6. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witnesses against him, to have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor, and to have the assistance of counsel for his defense.
Amendment 7. In suits at common law, where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of trial by jury shall be preserved, and no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court of the United States than according to the rules of the common law.
Amendment 8. Excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted.
Amendment 9. The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people.
Amendment 10. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. That really, it's there's so much in those. I mean, and how important they were to getting the Constitution passed, and really because it's talking about the rights of the people. And I mean, not to have cruel and unusual punishment. And there's a lot that's still in there. Now, I'm not really sure, like, it's interesting in terms of the idea of the people. Does the people just mean all of the people who are in the United States, or does it just mean the citizens?
Well, exactly, and that's the debate that's happening right now, right? But up until now, it has always been interpreted as the people physically within the United States. Whether you're a citizen or not, if you're on this ground, you have the right to due process. That's how it's always been interpreted for 249 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, not necessarily all 249 years because slaves were not counted as the people up until the 14th Amendment. But
Right.
Actually, I would have liked to have read for the 14th Amendment too, because that feels like it's almost part of the Bill of Rights. But
and would that have excluded all women also?
Oh,
because
absolutely.
They were not officially.
And we still don't have an amendment. There's no Equal Rights Amendment. It never happened.
Yeah.
So we do have voting rights, but we don't have an Equal Rights Amendment.
Yeah. Well, now voting rights, the Supreme Court has done more to restrict who can.
Oh, I know. I never changed my name when I got married, and I'm glad.
We're glad.
Yeah.
And at the time, now it's a lot more common, but when I didn't change my name, I got married back in 1994. It was still really rare. It was something like 6% of married women in the United States didn't change their name. And I used to have to explain it all the time. People would be like, wow, it's so weird. Do I need to change your name? But yeah, I'm very glad I didn't, because what a pain,
Yeah. And,
I mean, going forward, just to be able to prove that you're supposed to be able to vote, if your name is different than your birth certificate, which is supposed to catch trans people, like that was the whole point. It's like, ooh, let's catch the trans people.
Yeah, let's be as mean as possible. That seems to be
it's
there.
Just mean.
Right,
it's just mean-spirited. It's very mean-spirited.
Yeah, and like all of these people who'd been serving in the military. And I mean, that it's like, if they hadn't been doing a good job, they would have been kicked out,
Right.
So, I mean, it's and then also it's like for Pride Month, let's change the name of the
Harvey Milk.
The Harvey Milk,
Back to a Confederate general.
Yeah.
Because
or going back to the Confederate names and saying, oh no, it's not for that Confederate person. It's this other person who happens to have the same
name. I know, that was hilarious. I'm like, that is some Orwellian doublespeak right there.
Yeah.
And this
But
is
yeah.
the meritocracy
Oh,
when
is
it
it
should be
now?
the unmeritocracy,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
the
crazy.
I don't know what that means. What do you mean?
demeritocracy.
Oh, he's just being facetious that we're a meritocracy. Like, that they this whole anti-DEI movement is they're saying like the United States is a meritocracy. We shouldn't be, lifting people up just because of their, protected class. That thing.
Yeah. Okay.
But of course, it is not a meritocracy because if it were a meritocracy, that cabinet wouldn't be that cabinet.
It's like
I'm not going to name names.
It's just,
I don't
it's
want to get
not,
shipped off to an
you
island.
know that
And
it's
they
not.
wouldn't have fired all of the people that did do things of merit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That was the reason for their firing. They were worthy and they made everybody else look bad that wasn't worthy
Yeah.
of the position.
Mm, yeah, yeah. Well, and I mean, this is really in a lot of ways. I mean, the 50s and the whole McCarthyism happened before my time, but so much of like what is happening now, it just seems like it's the worst it's been in my lifetime, and that people are less optimistic. I mean, that's another thing that I really am nostalgic for in terms of the bicentennial, how excited people were about it, and really the idea. And even then, I mean, the possibilities that have happened since then, the great successes that have happened in some places of the world, like in South Africa and Northern Ireland. But then, I mean, just so much. Anyways, there's so much war going on in the world, whereas the idea of like the sort of UN and the international community is let's do what's best for the common good for everybody, and that's going to help us the most as well, because that's, I mean, so anyways. Those are some of my feelings about it. Anybody else have anything they want to say about?
I would just
Well,
say I'm an attorney, which as Paul knows, and it was interesting reading the Fifth and the Eighth Amendments because I actually had briefed a case, an amicus brief. I didn't get to argue or anything to the Supreme Court about New York's law that allowed tax foreclosures and allowed states to keep the difference after the taxes were paid. And the Supreme Court did find that unconstitutional because it was an unconstitutional taking. And it was, and two justices also found that it was an excessive fine. So, some things that do happen right, you know,
oh yeah, it's
right.
a great document. I mean,
Yes, yes, that is, and
Yeah,
it's great for us
especially
to remember
that
that they
First
are
Amendment is really packed too. That First Amendment is front loaded.
it really
I mean,
is. Yeah, there's a
there's
lot
a
there.
lot in that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot there. There's so much in like the Fifth and my personal, I mean, First Amendment of course is like got to be first, but also the Ninth, which I got to read, which I really like. It's like that rights not enumerated
Yes,
are retained by the people, which
right.
is sort of again the idea of natural rights of the people, and there being limits on the
Well, and the fact that what you said is that it's a beautiful amendment because it literally says that granting the rights to this does not indicate that you're taking any other rights away. That's literally what it says.
Right.
It's like just because we're enumerating a new right in here, that does not mean that we're taking away another right. So it's just adding. It's not taking something away.
That's
Yeah.
the Supreme Court's job to take away rights.
didn't used to be, but I mean, it was like the 20th century. It was a great, I mean, in terms of some of the things
Expansion.
they did. I mean, what happened under the Warren Court, and then that feeling that can't happen, and so now we've got some things going back. But it had been a long time before they really started going back, and well,
Well, I hope we live long enough to see it swing back the other way.
I'm
yes,
sure we will,
yes,
depending
yes,
on our ages. But I think,
yeah, yeah,
I'm certain it will swing back,
Because,
yeah.
15 or
you know,
20 years or so.
Yeah, I mean, if it were, we're
Just
still a young
not
nation,
education.
you know. Like it took Rome, like it's like 400 years for an empire to fall, right? So we got another like 150 to go.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I mean, I'm like fingers crossed for we'll be back next year to celebrate the 250th birthday. So, thank you. Thank you, and thank you all for joining us. Is there anything, Jennifer, welcome. Is there anything you wanted to add? We're just about to end here, I think.
Oh, sorry to get there late. Just happy 4th of July.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Happy
Happy
4th of
4th.
July, everyone. Have a good one. And and also the Instant Shakespeare Company, we do readings of all of Shakespeare's plays every year. This is our 26th season of doing that, and we do them both on Zoom and in person at various branches of the New York Public Library. We have a lot of things coming up in July because there's a lot of things like, well, we're doing this July 4th to celebrate the American independence and freedom. It's interesting that so many of these days come in July because also on July 14th, we have Bastille Day, where the French celebrate independence. And what we're going to be doing for that is we'll be doing, it's a Monday evening at 7:30, we're going to do a reading of The Green Cockatoo by Arthur Schnitzler because it is set on Bastille Day.
Perfect.
And also, it's also, I don't want to forget Canada, that July 1st is Canada Day, where they got their independence, but they didn't fight for it. They were just very polite. And so England was like, okay, you can.
Please, may we be independent?
Yes. Exactly. And so we have a Zoom reading tomorrow of Edmund Ironsides, which is a Shakespeare play everybody knows, right? No, it's a Shakespeare play nobody is familiar with because we're not even sure it's by Shakespeare. But some people feel it is, and that it may have been like sort of his very first play. We'll talk a little bit about that, and there is a lot of fun stuff in it. And then next week we're going to be at the Bloomingdale Library with the Merry Wives of Windsor. So, and if you want to know more about Instant Shakespeare, just email me at instantshakespeare@gmail.com. And thank you so much. And we also have our Instant Shakespeare